Good afternoon. My name is Joe Saur. I teach at Regent University. I teach a class in cyber ethics, and I use the information I'm going to talk about in a few minutes as part of the discussion in my class, as a discussion. First slide shows my definition of a lethal autonomous weapon system. Essentially a vehicle of some sort, a robot of some sort, armed with one or more weapon systems, controlled by artificial intelligence software that controls movement, target detection, target identification, categorization, aiming at the target, shooting at the target, and then damage assessment to decide for a possible re-engagement. So that's what we're talking about in terms of lethal autonomous weapon systems. There has been a call for a ban on research into LAWSs. The initial call was in April of 2013, coordinated by the Human Rights Watch, a campaign to stop killer robots. Makes great headlines for something like that, but they're talking about a ban modeled on the successful campaigns against anti-personnel mines, cluster munitions, blinding lasers. In October of that year, there was an additional open letter from a number of engineers, computer scientists, artificial intelligence types, roboticists, calling for a ban. Again, this is the International Committee for Robot Arms Control. Finally, in July of 2015, a number of professionals, roboticists, and others, including, among others, Stephen Hawking, an open letter promoting a ban against offensive weapon systems. And then in the pages of the communications of the Association for Computing Machinery, there's been a discussion of their code of ethics and professional conduct, one section of which calls for first do no harm. So this whole question about whether or not there should be a ban has been raised again by the professional side of the organization. Some of the arguments for a ban on research into LAWSs, it's going to change the nature of warfare. We take the human out of it. We no longer have to worry about humans. We no longer have to worry about at least the humans on our side. We don't have, and so that becomes an issue of whether or not that dehumanizes the warfare, and it makes it a different type or a different level of warfare. The other objection is from here by Toby Walsh. We're not good enough at this point to create something that we would trust with a weapon. We're not going to trust a robot with a machine gun at this point. We're not good enough in creating software that is sufficiently capable of distinguishing, for example, between a 10-year-old boy holding a ham sandwich and a 10-year-old boy holding a hand grenade, a shepherd holding a staff versus a Taliban operative who's wearing the same clothing but happens to have an AK-47. So those two arguments are for a ban. Against the ban, there are a number of also other arguments. Ronald Arkin at Georgia Tech believes that a AI-controlled technology will actually be more effective than a human being at distinguishing between non-combatants and combatants. They don't get tired, they don't get angry, they don't get upset, and so they will be more effective because they'll be more objective. At the same time, there's arguments that it would not be effective at all. A treaty-based ban would be between sovereign nations. People, non-state actors, ISIS, Taliban, Boko Haram, they don't follow the bans that exist now. There's no reason why we would expect them to follow a ban against use of LAWSs. And as has been pointed out by Francois, these things are you can take the capability from the civilian market and put it into the military market very quickly. We already have the same kind of algorithms in video games that will in fact target and shoot at targets on their own, non-player characters, and that capability could easily be shifted to an actual robot. And the other part of that is the existing treaties, the 1925 Geneva Protocol for poison gas bacteriological warfare. The primary deterrent is retaliation. If you use those types of weapons against my troops, I will use them against your troops. Very often, this is something that comes out, and these weapons are very often used as a last resort. I'm losing anyway, and I don't care, and I'm going to use these to try and change the dynamics of the conflict. And so what we're looking at, we need to have those kinds of weapon systems on our side if we're going to, in fact, be able to deter their use against us. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of my slides, I've got my email address, jsaur@regent.edu, so that if we don't get to your question here during the Q&A session, please give me an email, send me an email, and I will be happy to answer the questions. Thank you.